terms of Hurricane Ana. As you know, it remains a hurricane. Initially, we were hoping that it would be downgraded back to tropical storm. So it maintains its hurricane force winds at a Category 1. The center of the storm passed south of Oahu at about 1 o'clock. It's now around 3:30. We continue to feel the impacts, and we don't want to give the all clear. I think, in fact, we're really feeling the impacts now. It's quite windy, south onshore winds, more rain, and we're seeing increased surf along the south shore from all the way from Sandy Beach, which the surf is breaking at 12 to 18 feet right now, big waves, and it's moving down the coast, down the leeward coast, to Waianae. So we want to be very, very careful at this point. Here are some of the things that we're going to start doing very shortly. We are going to be opening up our evacuation shelters, as we said, 5 of them, all pet friendly, starting at 4. And we're going to be having our bus service start to pick people up, particularly our homeless population who is in no shelter, or a shelter that's not going to stand up to the winds. And so, for example, starting at 4 o'clock, we're going to be picking up, our bus service is going to be picking up homeless folks at Waianae Boat Harbor at 4. That's at Maile Beach, across from the Pink Store, Uliava Beach, Nanakuli Beach, and they're going to deliver folks down to Nanakuli High School. In Ewa Beach, Papipi Road, starting at 5 o'clock, we'll be picking up people, Kaple Kmart at 6 p.m., and we'll be taking them also to the Nanakuli High School. Mokoi Pavilion in Ala Moana Beach Park at 4 o'clock, and the bus stop fronting the zoo on Kapahulu at 5 p.m., and we're going to take those folks to Farrington High School. And then Waimanalo, we're going to pick folks up at Baby Makapu, across from the Sea Life Park at 4:30, and Waimanalo Beach Park at 5, and we'll take those folks to Waimanalo Elementary School. If there's anyone else who would like to be picked up, they can go to those sites and be delivered to those places. We also, as you know, have 2 more shelters. One is at Leilehua High School, the other one is Brigham Young University out in Laie. They can call 768-CITY and get a bus to come and pick them up, a handy van to come and pick up folks who feel that they're not safe in their homes, and we can get them delivered there. So we wanted to thank everyone for working so hard. As you can see, this storm is very broad. The Big Island, even though the eye is now past, is still feeling the impacts of this storm. They still have flash flood warnings in effect. I was hoping initially we could give the all clear later, but I think with the size of this storm, we're going to have to wait until tomorrow to see what kind of impacts there's going to be. We don't want anyone to let their guard down, and I think that's very important to emphasize. Many people have asked, what about the visitor industry? And we're in constant contact with the Tourism Authority and Hotel and Lodging. They're working with our visitors. I think right now, most visitors are a little disappointed with the rain and wind, but I wanted to just give an example. Here's an example of what Outrigger does. Under every single room, under every door, is a notice in English. There's another one in Korean here, but it basically tells their guests what they should be watching out for, giving them instructions on what they should be holding in their room, sheltering in place, but also encouraging them to check with security, to check with the front desk, to check with the manager before they go out in any direction. And so I think this is an example of self-empowerment at the ground level with our visitor industry, and all the major hotels are doing the same thing. I wanted to emphasize that. Wanted to let you know that our Department of Urban and Forestry stands by to provide support should any trees be brought down. So far, we're not getting reports of any downed trees. The Department of Transportation Services are standing by through the OTS and the bus to help evacuate should that occur. There's been no notice of any evacuation, and I want to give you an example of how our hotline has really come in handy in that area. We're getting calls on a regular basis. We staffed up yesterday, and lots of calls came in for a while. It was quiet during the evening, and it's getting a little busier now. But there was a false rumor going around out in Waianae that we had ordered an evacuation, which is absolutely not true. But our call center got a call, and we sent our guys on the ground out there to make sure that rumor did not spread. So that's a good example of getting information from someone and then countering problems. The state highways have met with our transportation services and Division of Facility Maintenance to prioritize any storm-related damage. And again, we're not seeing anything. So with the call center, besides quelling that one rumor, there are a lot of calls on shelter locations, evacuation, transport, and I think we're glad that's up. We're going to keep it up. Last time with Azelle, we kept it up another 10 hours or so after the storm passed, because then there's a wrap-up afterwards. People want to know certain things, and we're going to make sure we provide that information. So I would like to ask Peter Harai, the Deputy Director of Emergency Management, to step in. He's been working very hard. His whole team has been working hard for the past 4 or 5 days, actually. And Peter, if you could just summarize the things you've been dealing with. Thank you so much.
Sure, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ladies and gentlemen, if you think, in the public, if you think that your weekend was spoiled, we have a lot of hardworking city workers, state workers, federal folks, and private entities behind me working really hard. They're going to be working all weekend 24/7 to make sure that services are coordinated at the city level. We started opening the EOC this morning at 8 a.m. And immediately after the video teleconference, we went into our Emergency Operations Center, and we have people from Transportation Services, Public Works, we have all of our public safety agencies, our own staff at Emergency Management, we have our Visitor Bureau. All of us are working together to make sure that the public remains safe during this storm. We ask for your patience, we ask for your cooperation, and we thank you for everything that you've been doing to make your families safe. That's all I have, sir. Thank you.
Thanks, Peter. Next, I'd like to ask Mike Formby, Director of Transportation Services, to emphasize our bus service to shelters and other things. I want to thank Mike. You know, he was in an APTA-Rail conference in Houston when this event occurred. He got in the first plane he could get to come back home, and he was here before the storm arrived. Again, it shows dedication and public service to the community. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to let everybody know that we had regular Saturday service today, bus and handy van. Today was actually the first day of our real-time scheduling for handy van, and both have operated without incident today, so that's good news. We do have the evacuation service, which starts at 4, and we do have a handout which we'll give you. And the only addition I'll make to that, Mayor, is that because we know there's a large homeless population around the Children's Discovery Center, we will have a homeless advocate in the area that can call us and let us know if anybody in that area needs to be evacuated, and we'll send a handy van or a bus to that area. But otherwise, we have the locations and the times. We're happy to give you this. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. I would like Shane Enright to step up next. She's the emergency services spokeswoman. She's been out and about today, and she has some new information to share with you. Thank you so much. Shane.
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon, everyone. We really hope that if you had the urge to get into the water, you did so already, because it is getting now very dangerous out there. We are seeing high surf, strong winds, and extremely strong rip current. So now is not the time to get into the water. We've already had dozens of rescues. Sandy Beach is very busy, as well as Waikiki. We had an incident where a kite surfer lost his board, so we had to go out and rescue them. So we are asking at this time to stay indoors, go to the mall, or go to the movies, or just stay at home, because emergency medical services, the police department, the fire department, they're all going to be busy, and we're just asking for your kakua at this time. One other thing, we did have a shark sighting out, Maile Beach. We're asking for people to listen to the warning signs are posted at this time. It is possible with the runoff to see murky water. This can lead to sharks coming into the area, so just talk to the lifeguards before you go into the water, if you do decide to do that later tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Shane. I did want to emphasize that also in terms of those who want to go in the water even tomorrow. As Shane mentioned, you know, when you have heavy rains, everything flushes out of our streams. Many we've been very dry, and so if a wild pig died in the stream or other things, it washes out. It becomes food for sharks. And so please don't go into brown water right now. Stay out. Listen to the lifeguards. Listen to the warnings. Finally, we'd like Ross Sasamora to come up and talk, the Director, Division of Facility Maintenance. He's always last. I asked him to be last because he's the cleanup guy. He's also the setup guy too, so he helps prepare for the storm. They are standing by to do the cleanup that's necessary, and I'm very glad that Ross has my back and our back. Ross Sasamora.
Thank you, Mayor. It's a pleasure to be the cleanup guy. Good afternoon. Crews from the Department of Facility Maintenance continue to do proactive work to minimize any effects of flooding or the heavy rainfall that we're seeing. We responded to 3 calls so far around the island of Oahu, specifically concerns over some debris along one of the Waianae bypass roads. We had some debris close to the Kalauau Bridge in the Prokai area, as well as some storm drain blockage that we encountered along Young Street and Piikoi. We're going to continue to do that work. I want to thank all of our crews for working so hard, being out there in the rain and the weather, doing all of the work that we need to have done to keep everybody safe. But as we continue to feel the effects of Ana, it's very important also that everybody bear in mind that there's a large degree of ponding out on their streets right now, dangerous driving conditions. So please, everyone, allow for extra stopping distance. Please approach ponding water on roadways with caution, especially if there are areas out in the rural areas where you have flowing water across the roadways. So we want to make sure that everybody's going to be safe as we weather this storm, and hope that everybody will make it through to next week when we can hope for possibly better weather. Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks, Ross. Appreciate it. With that, we'll open it up and any other questions you may have.
Mayor Andrew Pereira with KITV4
Yes.
News. Mayor, it seems that this time around you were able to keep some services open compared to LaSalle in August. What lessons did you learn from LaSalle that allowed you to better prepare the city and keep some services going this time around?
I think what the difference is that we're getting a lot of very good information from the National Weather Service that's allowing us to make decisions closer to the actual impact. And I think it's a wise thing to do because, one, there is an impact when we start issuing emergency declarations and shutting down bus service. In fact, it impacts our local businesses, our visitor industry. And yet we were given enough advice that we knew it should Ana have veered more to the north, we had time to actually implement our plans. And we have plans, we still have plans. For some reason, if it was to veer north, we'd go into action immediately. So I think we've learned that, and yet we've done some things just to be cautious, like opening up shelters. Some people say, why open them? We'll see what happens. Well, we know that people need advance information of where those shelters are before we can move them into these shelters. And we want a lot of people to drive to these shelters if they feel it's necessary. So it's a more balanced approach, and I think we've learned. Every time one of these events happens, we learn. And the good news is nothing bad has happened in the past couple of years, but yet we learn from each one. So when something does happen in the future, we will be better prepared and ready. Thanks.
Chelsea Davis with Hawaii News Now.
Yes, Chelsea.
You guys are urging people to stay off of the roadways, but you are deploying some of your city workers to go out there on the roads to pick up homeless people. How do you assure the safety of your own city and county workers when there's a potential for flooding and heavy rain?
Yeah, I'm going to ask Mike Formby to answer that question since he's in charge of the bus service. Thank you very much.
Well, it's a great question, and let me just say, you know, the drivers, the men and women that drive the buses and the handy van, they're very well trained. They've been through this before. This is not the first time for them. So they go through briefings ahead of time, safety briefings, and they all know what route they're going to be assigned and what they should look for and what they should expect. So I think it's good training. Roger Morton and his crew at OTS have worked really closely with their drivers, and we haven't had any incidents in the past, and we don't expect any under the conditions that are out there right now. Thanks.
Any other questions? Yes. Hi.
This
Hi.
might be for Shane, but I was out talking to various residents out and about, and when I was talking to them, they weren't really concerned. They told me they weren't concerned with all of these updates, saying, hey, I'm still going to go out into the surf. Do you worry that a lot of people will listen to these updates and they'll go through one ear and out the other?
Yes, but our lifeguards are trained to know who and who is not qualified to go into the water. And as I said earlier, people did go in. There was body surfing out at Sandy Beach, but those men and women were very experienced. If it looks like somebody does not know what they're doing, we're going to stop them before they even get into the water. If there aren't any lifeguards there, then at this time, we just hope that they wish that they had listened to the updates, because we are doing everything that we can do to keep them safe.
Shane, you mentioned there have been dozens, I think, of rescues or incidents that you guys have responded to.
Yes.
Is everybody okay? Have there
Yes.
been any injuries or anything
Yeah,
like that?
thank you for asking. At this point, everybody is okay. We were able to get to them with the amount of time needed, necessary, to prevent anything unfortunate from happening.
Shane, could you update me on the waves in Sandy? I could have said 10 to 18, but was it 10 to 15 or 10
It's
to
about
12?
8 to 12 foot
8 to
faces,
12, okay.
but we could see even bigger, so no problem with that. It could get up to 18 at this point.
This 8 to 12 short break.
8 to 12 foot
Not
faces, that's
point.
And at Sandy Beach, we all know that's very large and very heavy surf, strong rips.
Did you call in extra personnel, extra lifeguards to monitor the beaches, specifically on the South Shore?
Yes, we actually have an extra rescue watercraft out on the South Shore in Waikiki, where there was about 200 people out in the surf. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Mayor, folks that may, for some reason, feel a sense of disappointment that Anna didn't affect us more, that's what you had hoped for. Just remind us that you plan for the worst, but you hope for the best, and this is the best right now.
Thank you, Andrew. We always plan for the worst and hope for the best. And we want the best to occur. I can't imagine that anyone living on this island, almost 1 million people, would say, man, I wish we had really been hit hard. Yes, we're prepared. There's certain excitement getting ready. But I can tell you, when it gets really bad, most people wish it would go away. And the good news is it's going away. We are going to feel impacts, and we don't want to let our guard down at this point. We appreciate your coverage to get the information out to your viewing audience. But I hope that people realize that we are lucky when the worst doesn't happen. But we're also lucky because we get to prepare, and it's not just government preparing. It's individuals, it's every family on this island getting ready, talking to their family about where they're going to be, how they're going to help each other, their neighbors. And I think we've gotten better. We see, for example, there's not the run on water that there used to be in the past. I think all of you covering this have helped people to step back and take a deep breath. Hopefully they'll remember it the next time. So these things are helpful, and if someone's disappointed, well, I'm glad they're disappointed.